Good morning and welcome to this week's tarot reading. Today we're going to be exploring a theme that I tend to get caught up in quite frequently, and I'm pretty sure that many of you will also feel the same. And what we're looking at is thoughts that keep kind of coming back and looping, and it's kind of sometimes described as like fixation or rumination, looping, all that kind of thing. And the difference though in what we're looking at is sometimes when the thought returns, we automatically label it as, oh, it's this thing again, it's come back, and we take it from almost a stuckness or I want to say more of a negative kind of side to it, in the sense of we see the thought, we recognize the thought, and then we put blame on ourselves. So there's a judgment piece to this. I'm going to be looking at it from a little bit of a different perspective today with our reading, in the sense of these thoughts that come back. If we actually can take a moment and look at them, we'll notice that these thoughts that we're looking at, they're different. They might come with the same words, or they might come with the same events kind of bringing them forward. But when we sit and we look at them, there is subtle nuances sometimes in how they're showing up. And the subtle nuances are showing that these are loops that are in progress. And that's very different from remuneration, whatever the word is. Because when we get stuck in just hashing away at old thoughts and old patterns, then there's no energy, no new energy that's being brought in. And so we might look at it as these are just the same things that I keep dealing with over and over again. But every time with certain loops and certain patterns, we notice, if we take the time to work with them, if we take the time to cultivate the tools, we will start to notice that there are subtle shifts, and that when it does come back, it might come back with less of a bite. It might come back with a different word. It might come back from a different event that brings it forward. But it's important for us to be able to understand what are the loops that our brains get in that are fixations, and what are the ones that are works in progress, because that's going to be basically the difference. When it comes to fixation, there are different tools and strategies to work with, but if it's a loop that's a work in progress, it's allowing the loop to do what it needs to do, so that when it resets and it comes back, it'll come back a little bit differently. So the overall question that I have for today's reading is, what understanding emerges when you observe the thoughts that keep returning without resolution? And that's, I think, one of the key things that we want to look at is that, fixations tend to be, this never ends, this always goes, right? And those will never kind of have a resolution, because they are just judgmental echoes. Whereas these thoughts that keep returning without resolution, as I said, they're a work in progress. And so it's important to be able to see what has moved, because the thing is once they resolve, they'll stop coming back. So that's what we're going to shuffle into the deck today and see what comes up. So let's pick our cards. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the first question that we're going to look at is, what part of your life feels like it's looping? Because that's the other thing, is we might, if there's a bit of fixation attached to the looping, we might see that it's always the same spot in our lives. When we can pull back and see it, we can start to notice how it's connected with different areas. But right now, the area that it seems to be mostly connected to is strength. Now, a couple of things to start off with is, this is a major arcana. So that means the first thing that comes to me is that the area of our life that this feels like it's looping is in like the bigger pattern, the broader, everything encompassing kind of idea of these loops and these fixations that we seem to be stuck in. And with strength being the card that is sitting there as well, it's saying that there's this idea that if I put enough effort into it, I can push through it. If I beat this loop up enough, it'll stop. Or if I beat myself up enough, I'll, know better, and I'll be able to figure out how to get out of here and work through it. And what this is asking for is, it's saying this loop that you're going through is a loop that needs to be dealt with more compassion. It needs to be dealt with more kindness and more understanding. There will be times when you'll be asked to be courageous and to step forward and to take action and to be decisive and to move forward in that way. But right now, that seems to be the thing that is really cementing this loop in place. And one of the things that might help to shift it, might help to move it, is to just step back and say, I understand there's frustration here. And when we get frustrated, because frustration is connected directly to anger, that we want to lash out and that we want to do something. And some of the problems with the loops is that there's nothing physical to lash out at. And so it's just a matter of sitting back and taking kind of a more calm, logical perspective where you can step back and see what's going on. How may the pattern of this loop present itself in your body? And as we were talking about with strength, right? Like when you're caught in a loop, when you feel that you're stuck, and I keep thinking of Bill Murray, right? In Groundhog's Day, he got frustrated more and more and more as time went on, and became very angry and did some crazy things before the resolution finally showed up. And what's interesting is it's a really good example, I think, for what we're looking at, because the more he fought it, the more he was stuck. And once he kind of stepped back and just allowed things to happen, that's when the resolution occurs. And that's what I think we're being told is, if you're going to brute force it, you're going to be here longer. And so the longer you're there, the more it's going to have a physical impact. And so here we have the Knight of Cups. This is interesting because a couple of things that you have with the Knight of Cups is, first of all, the Knight of Cups is water. And this person or this character is sitting in the northern part, which is earth. So the two of them together are making a bit of mud, which means the body might be feeling very sluggish. There may be emotional discomfort within the body. And I say that because, like, when you're anxious, there is a physicalness to it. When you're grieving, there's a physicalness to it. And so the emotions that we're feeling are physically manifesting in the body. We might be feeling nauseous. We might be feeling irritated. We might be feeling agitated. There may be something in the body that wants to move. There might be something in the body that feels that it needs to process something out. And so this is what we need to be paying attention to. And it's interesting because the body is always the first that understands what's going on. And so if you're tuning into what's going on in your body and where you're feeling things in your body, then you're going to start to notice where you're feeling frustrated and where you're feeling that you need to take some kind of action. And the more you can tune into that, the clearer this will become. Because right now it's just mud, right? When we're sitting in here and we're trying to find a solution to something that we really still have yet to put our finger on, we're just going to create mud. And it's going to just make it so that all the energy that we're putting out, because knights are active, they're physical. And so the more energy that we're putting out, the more we're trying to move our body, the more we're trying to either shove food into it or, work ourselves out until we feel that calm and peace, the more it's going to agitate the body, and the more we're going to start to find other parts of the body start to really respond in a, not very happy way. And so listening to the body and feeling into the body is going to be the first step in how to understand how this loop is working. What situations and thoughts keep the loop alive? So here's the other thing. And interestingly enough, now we've got the brothers, right? So we've got the Knight of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles. And what's interesting right? So we have the Knight of Cups in earth, but now we have the Knight of Pentacles, earth in fire. So what you're feeding into this loop is what's going to end up solidifying. I always like to look at the idea of the earth when you have an earth and a fire together, that like I'm always reminded of pottery, right? And that you take your pottery and you put it in the fire and you fire it up. And once it's fired, whatever you have is the final product. And this is what it's kind of pointing at, is that the situations that you're putting yourself in, the mindsets that you have, the activities that you're doing, all of this is going to bring you to a final product. And it's important to be very aware of the physical things that you are doing, right? Because if you're all tied up in anxiety, if you're all tied up in frustration, and if you're getting angry and you're getting upset and you're going off in a huff and going off and doing things, which is, the more animal wild side of strength, then you're going to quite possibly make the situation worse, because what you're doing is you're cementing that loop into the physical world, which is always the last to appear and the hardest to clear. So it's important to be able to remember that the actions that you're doing, and I speak specifically to like the physical actions, because that is the Knight of Pentacles, and the Knight of Pentacles is our tangible 3D world. And it might be interesting to look at, are you doing things that are helping to move the body, to move the energy, to move the thoughts away from the fixation, to allow the loop to run its course? Or are the actions that you're taking just compounding the problem even more? Next, we're going to look at what emotional hooks hold the loop in place. And this is the important one, because a lot of times when the loops move to fixation, that's because there's a judgment piece in it. And if we have open wounds, if we have areas of ourselves that are sensitive, they make hooks, right? And then as this loop comes in, it's going to hook onto those, it's going to pull, it's going to create some kind of response. And that resonance from the response is going to trickle through everything else. And until we can understand what the hooks are and help ourselves to heal the hooks, to heal those issues, then these loops are going to keep hooking into something every time they come back. And the best way to know if we're doing our inner work, if we're doing the things that the hooks are bringing forward for us, is when the loop returns, is it hooking as deeply? Is it causing as much distress? And so what we have here is we have the Nine of Cups. And this is interesting because it seems that whatever the loops are around right now, they're connected to communities. They're connected to, I would also say, our lovability and the beliefs that we hold around how much deservingness we have to be in healthy communities. And so when the loop starts up, it'll start to create judgmental thoughts of, everyone leaves me, I have no place to fit, no one wants me, right? These kinds of thoughts will then end up feeding into the more fixation side of it, instead of looking back at it and saying, there's something in here about relationships. There's something in here even about abundance, because the Nine of Cups is also about abundance, in the sense of being able to open up to receiving love, to receiving joy, to receiving pleasure, all of those kinds of things. And so if we consider ourselves to be unworthy of having healthy relationships, unworthy of being able to create beautiful places and beautiful spaces where we're welcome and we can welcome others, then that's going to be kind of the pieces that are going to start hooking the loop in, because the loop is going to come, right? Like I said, the loop is a work in progress. It is something that we're working through to understand about ourselves. But when it gets stuck, then it stutters and it's unable to smoothly go through the process so that we can see what's going on and then wait for the next time to come around for it to be able to be a bit clearer. And so right now, what we're being asked to kind of look at, instead of fixating on the loop, we're being asked to look at, what can we do to increase our lovability? What can we do to increase our sense of self-worth, so that we're putting ourselves in spaces that are harmonious to who we are and who we really want to be. And our final card is what shifts are beginning to form in the pattern. And this is the piece that we're asked to kind of pay attention to. Again, the loop never asks for a resolution. The loop never asks for us to solve the problem. The loop simply asks for us to notice how it moves through our lives and what it brings up and what is it offering for us. And so right now we're just being asked what is beginning to form, like what shifts are happening? What are we noticing that's different about the way we're experiencing this current loop than the last time? And here we have the lovers. And the lovers card is interesting as well because one, we have now bookended the reading. So we started off with a major arcana card. We're ending with a major arcana card. And that means that everything that's going on right now around the loop is the universe's kind of lessons that being taught to us, right? If you think about the loop as it's a lesson we're here to learn, not to resolve. And so as long as we allow the lesson itself to come through and we open ourselves to how are we feeling the lesson? What are we doing during the lesson? And how are we supporting our lovability and our self-worth during this lesson? Then we come through to the end, which brings us to the lovers. And the new pattern and the new observations that we're being able to make is the understanding that we have a choice. We can choose to get caught in the fixation. We can choose to get caught in the judgment and in the beating ourselves up and holding ourselves completely responsible and accountable for whatever is going on. Or we can choose to look at it from a different perspective. We can choose to accept that this is part of our evolving story and allow ourselves to move forward, even though moving forward will come with its challenge, will come with other loops, will come with other fixations, will come with other things that we're going to need to be aware of. But the thing that's being brought forward right now is that in this moment, we have the right to choose. And this is the only thing we're being asked to pay attention to. And how we're going to choose and what we're going to choose is going to be part of the next pattern, because what we choose will be basically step one of what the loop is going to kind of bring with it when it comes back the next time around. So with that, I hope you did enjoy this reading and that you got some kind of nugget out of it. If you did like the reading, please subscribe to the channel. There is a new reading every week. And right now we're going through, some pretty interesting themes. So I look forward to seeing what themes pop up for next week. And in the meantime, take care and I will see you around the webs.